Welcome to the Cranium Cast podcast. I am your host, Justin Carroll. Today we have a special caller on the line. What is your name, caller?
Oh my gosh, I made it. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited right now. I cannot believe that I was the lucky caller. Oh yeah. My name is Toby. I just wanted to say I've listened to every one of your podcasts and I love them. I hope my background isn't too loud. My mom just got home from the store. I apologize. Do you think by chance I could plug my fitness page on here? I made a fitness Instagram account to show the progress and hopefully score some ad deals. But it's been hard to get any attention to the account because, it's just so new and everything. And then, you know what? Actually, I shouldn't ask too much and just kill the situation. You mind following me back? I'm sure it'd be great to be friends on Instagram. I'm sure we can just, discuss this over DM and then.
What an amazing caller. Thank you for joining me in this new segment today. Now, to your regularly scheduled program. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode a month later after we talked about being more consistent. But hey, we've been working on a lot, so we'll catch up a little bit on that and we'll talk. That'll tie us into today's topic pretty well, I'd say. Thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys for being here. I know this is something new. I say new, but this is a new small podcast I've done for about a year now. Year and a half maybe, but it's a beautiful thing, like I say a bunch, and it's fun. And as like I said, I mentioned in the last episode, this is just a fun little adventure, at least for me, to really, I guess, document my progress while also trying to give back and to create stuff with it. I hope y'all like that little intro I did for this week's episode. I've just been trying to create more, and it's been very fun, and that's something I've valued in my roots for a long time as a person. I used to do a lot of YouTube videos when I was in middle school, and I did gaming videos where I would just edit funny moments of me doing whatever with my friends. And I miss that to an extent because creating stuff is just very fun and pleasing to me. And I like to create as a whole, and that's where I think music would be cool for me. So kind of using, I don't think I did it directly, but the caller for the show on detoxing, or no, I'm sorry, that's what we'll dive into. This is one take. I just got home from class about an hour ago, and I got to catch up on the phone with my buddy Sam. Shout out Sam. And I wanted to do this now because I did the intro yesterday and I was like, all right, we need to do this. So, but kind of like how he talks about in that, about wanting to plug his Instagram page and trying to use everything and being so consumed in the idea of social media and stuff, it's going to kind of dive into what I want to talk about with detoxing. And I'm not sure how much of this, if I even talked about it too much or specifically used detoxing in my last episode, but in general, like I communicated with y'all, I've been experiencing depression over the past few months and just a bunch of different things that have been obstacles and a little bit of struggles in my way. But I don't want to say you're guaranteed depression in life, and that's not what I mean by that, but I think the struggles themselves are life. That's life for you, and we grow from these experiences, and I may not have been too fond of where I was mentally, physically, whatever, and I wasn't fond of too many things, but it taught me a lot, so I'm very appreciative of that for where I am now, and that's a beautiful thing. I think it's beautiful to have those kind of acknowledgments and to be conscious of those kind of things, because it's not just a crummy experience. It's not just something that's kind of shitty. It's more than that. So, I try to use myself as an example, not only for others, but mainly I think for me, at least, being an example for others helps keep me keep me more in check and keeps me, like, if I'm trying to be a leader to other people, I have to be more, I have to live what I preach in that sense. So it helps keep me in line, helps make me work harder and take it more seriously. So it's a mutual relationship for sure. But with that, with my depression and everything I was experiencing, which I'd say I'm not gonna go ahead and just claim that I'm done with it right now and that I'm completely out. But this past month especially, I've seen a drastic switch. I've seen a huge switch in how I've been acting, and a lot of these bad habits or things that I did not enjoy or was particularly a fan of in my life have been slowly leaving and creeping out. And whenever a wave comes, it's a lot lesser, and they shrink every time. And so that's beautiful, and that gives me I wouldn't say hope, but excitement and a lot of gratitude, because I'm coming back and trying to remember like I used to, and just appreciate things more, and knowing that, it's a beautiful life that I have, and I am blessed and extremely fortunate in a lot of things, if not all of them. Like today, in between my classes and after my classes, I went and walked around my campus at college, and it's a beautiful weather right now. I'm not sure if any of you are familiar. Most of you are probably from Georgia. So for those who aren't, for the minority, or hopefully soon to be a majority or something like that, that'd be pretty cool. But for those of you who aren't familiar, Georgia has like bipolar weather, and we're a very humid state. And so that transition to the fall, where we get a couple weeks of, I can wear whatever and not feel like I'm sweating to death or I'm freezing to death. So it's a beautiful little moment where it feels like the weather's frozen or just kind of stopped where it's at, and the sun is still beaming. It's beautiful outside. There's color. The energy and the views outside just feel so saturated and so I don't want to say warm, but warm in like a kind way. It's a very enjoyable setting, and it's very pretty, and it just makes me be like, dang, I love this. I love looking at this, and it makes me just happy. And it's nice to where it's not 90 degrees, and I have to bring around a portable fan wherever I go. Right now it's perfect weather, to me at least like in the prime of the day. In the morning it's pretty cold, and I'm a skinny boy, so I think I got low iron levels or something, because my fingers keep getting cold. So that's not my favorite part of it, but whenever it's the prime of the day, I very much enjoy being outside and just appreciating that kind of stuff. So I wanted to kind of update y'all on that and talk about how I've been taking, and it's not something that is just happened with how I've been feeling. It's been a progress, and it's been a work in progress, and I've had a lot of things I've worked on fixing, habits I've worked on fixing, habits I've worked on starting. And so I think it's fair to acknowledge those things, and like I said before, and just realizing that it's not an instant gratification thing. This is a process that I have been working on, and with the whole instant gratification thing, I'm almost positive I mentioned this last episode. I don't mean to compare too much, but I think for a while I was sucked into a lot of instant gratification things, and I think that didn't help. I think that definitely influenced a lot of my state, my mental state, and just a lot of other things. And so what I mean by instant gratification is kind of like just things that you don't have to work for, things that you get instantly. And through that, like getting fast food's a great example. Instant gratification of fast food, it's not the most, it's easy and convenient, but the nutrition of it isn't the best, and that feeds into our body and our brain, and how we process that does have an influence on how we act and how we feel and all these other things. So if you're eating like crap all the time, you're eating terrible foods, then you're probably not going to feel the best, obviously, especially if you're like an athlete. You notice that stuff a lot more physically, but it does play a role in other ways as well. But we don't have that enjoyment of cooking food. And then after we've cooked something that's we've worked hard on and we feel rewarded for when we eat it, that's a little bit of like a healthy dopamine release in our brains. When we do something, when we work out, we go to the gym, we get a great workout and a great pump, we're sweating, we lifted really hard, or we ran a bunch. And I hated running for so long, but now I learned to appreciate it more. And a lot of times I'll jokingly say I have to be some sort of masochist or something because it's one of those things that's like it's just selective suffering, and I grow from that, and it helps me. At least I'm a pretty animated person. I'm a pretty emotional dude, a pretty all over the place guy with how fast my brain thinks sometimes. So meditating, working out, and things like that, and I guess a healthy diet and whatnot helps keep me in check and more calm. So for me, whenever I renewed my gym membership a couple weeks ago, and I've been going to the gym a lot more and being very routined and disciplined in that sense, which has been very nice because that's something I'm pretty used to, and I believe that you're a product of your environment. So, or your habits transition. It's not just one dimensional. In that sense either. I think if you have a habit that you're very disciplined in this way, it'll slowly transition into other aspects of your life or other habits and routines. So for me, with a lot of things I struggled doing, and I think this kind of to tie it back together with the dopamine and the instant gratification is I think I got so used to that instant gratification, it was harder for me to work on projects because the idea of that was just so draining, and I wanted it now. I wasn't in the present. I wanted everything now. I was so fixated at the idea of things that I understood it was a project and a process, but it mentally, that block of not being able to start or having a hard time starting something is I think anyone who can relate to this would agree that it's a pretty frustrating feeling, and not always the most encouraging either, because you have all these ideas and it's so hard for you to take that initiative and get into that rhythm. That learning curve or that beginning cycle of anything is tough to acclimate and adjust to that. But once you do, it does become easier, and it does become more. You become more adjusted to that, and that's when it becomes like looking back at it. And I'm not saying I'm where I want to be, but I have made progress to where I want to be, and so that's very inspiring to me. And being able to reflect on where I was at a point in my life where I didn't think. Or I don't say I didn't think. I was worried that it was going to be very hard for me to get out of these bad habits and cycles. So to see the progress I've made in such a short amount of time, it makes me that much more thankful and happy, and it makes me that much more inspired and encouraged to. It increases my drive because I realized I was capable of this the whole time, and it's just a matter of taking that initiative for us as people. I don't know where I saw this at, but in a video I was watching it might have been talking about dopamine detoxes, and it said, a long time ago, for a lot of people, it was mainly, people had that work ethic in them, so it was mainly just about taking that initiative, putting yourself in an environment where you had the knowledge and you had the resources to pursue what you wanted to. And that was the biggest issue for a lot of people. And now, in this day and age, I'd say through technology and the internet and like smartphones and computers and whatnot, but how convenient like phones are for everybody. You have access to a whole database of information on your phone at your disposal. I think that was such a great thing we can have, but I think it's a double-edged sword, and I think everything has its pros and cons, and it's a balanced weight, so it's a matter of, trying to acknowledge that. But for my generation, I'll say growing up on it, you don't think to, because it's kind of what you're introduced to at such a young age. Like when I was a kid, I'm like, the more and more technology I can use, the more video games I have, the more consoles I have, TV, phone, laptop, gaming, computer, whatever it is. Like I want all this stuff because I think this stuff's so cool, and I love to just do more and more. And I didn't have everything, so it kept like a lot of that hunger for it alive, like that desire. And as a kid, you're just like, oh, this is so much fun. And when your parents tell you, like, my parents would tell me not to, you don't need to play this all day. You don't need to do that. I'm like, what are you talking? Like, let me have fun. Let me be a kid. And now I'm like, okay, I think I do need to take time away from these things now because I'm trying to focus on this and that, and I'm trying to work towards my goals, and realizing that I got a little too hooked into things, and I wasn't working on things that took more effort or initiative. I was doing things that were fun and convenient. And not to say it's like what my purpose was for games and other stuff like that, but I think with phones, like I think I read somewhere, and if I'm wrong, forgive me, but this seems like a good analogy from how I understand it, that hundreds and thousands of years ago, before people would really document things too much, we would just have a great memory. And not saying that it was perfect by any means, but saying that obviously it's that whole kind of that phrase of if you don't use it, you lose it. Excuse me. And legible. Sorry, guys. I had a call to my house. Believe it or not, my house is a time capsule because I still have a landline. My friends think that's so interesting and funny whenever I tell them that. But because I don't even understand why we have it, because we just get telemarketer calls. No one actually calls here for anything. And it's very annoying. So I apologize for that, and to be a little less professional than I already am. But if we don't use things, we lose it. And when we're able to document things more, our memory isn't the best because we're not having to remember things as much as we need to, because we can just document things. And as long as we document these things, we'll have them at our disposal whenever we feel the need to review or look at things or whatever that may be. So, whenever I come back, whenever I've worked on this detox, and I don't think you can be an extremist in these things. I think it has to be something that you slowly ease your body into, or taking specific days to maybe do whole detoxes and whatnot, or you can lean. You don't want to just like completely shut down from 100 to 0, but you can work to that 0 or a very low point to where you've restricted yourself indefinitely. I have removed Instagram off my phone, and it's crazy because I have swiped off of Instagram, or I'll swipe off of Snapchat or an app I'm on, and Instagram would be on like the bottom right hand corner of my home bar. And every time I'd swipe off of an app for like the past couple of weeks, I have tried to click Instagram as soon as I get off of it. And I'm like, wow, I am continuing to do the exact same things. It was like a muscle memory. It's like routine in my body, and I'm continuing to do this even though the app's not even on my phone anymore. So that is insane to me, and it's kind of pointing out like, wow, I was doing this a lot more than I thought, and I had like developed a routine with this. And that's not to say everyone does do that. It's just to say, be aware of those kind of things, because they can creep up on us as people, because we're just, so we get that dopamine. And that's where I kind of tie this into that dopamine part, and detoxing our dopamine, because these instant gratification dopamine things are what we can get burnt out on, and things that aren't always the most healthy for us. With at least like earlier in life, I remember in high school and like younger, when I'd first use Instagram and like Facebook and whatnot, it was people were on there for like the dopamine of likes, or that attention, feeling like if anyone's seen Bo Burnham's Make Happy comedy finale, or it's not his finale anymore, but his stand-up on Netflix. At the end of it, he talks about how his generation was a whole generation of people who wanted to be entertainers and wanted to do all these things. And he wanted to be a comedian, and all these, he had all these dreams when he was younger. And he has a little song at the end of his show where he's kind of like mocking a Kanye little song he did where he spoke in auto-tune, but he talks about how he went to Chipotle and gets all this stuff on his burrito, and the dude at the end of the line tries to wrap the burrito, and like the tortilla starts dripping. He's like, dude, you're a burrito expert. I thought you were supposed to like know better. I thought you were gonna tell me if this was gonna happen. Like, I wouldn't have got half of this if I knew I was gonna have a messy burrito. That's the whole point of a burrito, is to have my ingredients confined to the wrap of the tortilla. And now I'm basically just eating a bowl. Like, I'll have to get a fork now for my burrito. Like, what a contradiction, or like what a contrast to the purpose of the burrito itself. And That's his like little analogy, which I think is such a creative thing and beautiful. And his I like his humor as a whole because it's something that can be like surface level entertaining, but there's usually a deeper meaning to it, which I love that kind of stuff. But it's about like that whole burrito, and that story is correlated to his career as a comedian and how he talked about how he struggled with his mental health a lot and would have, panic attacks on stage. And it just got to a point to where it was affecting way too much of him. And so he wanted to stop, or at least take time off to focus on himself and get his health better. And his whole point of that was like, I think a lot of people who want these kind of ideas, they probably wouldn't like them when they got to them. And that idea of being an entertainer, or being someone who's famous, or being this and that, however you kind of envision that thing. And with the things like social media today, it gives us that feeling that we are an entertainer, or that we are an influencer to an extent. For some people, they develop these things on these social medias, and that becomes their job and other things, which is an interesting innovation that we've seen amongst careers and whatnot that has adapted to technology and stuff. But a lot of people start using social media more than they do their normal life. And people think they start making out their social media world to be better than their actual world. And I forget, it might have been in the Andre 3000 Rick Rubin interview I listened to. I don't think I had listened to that yet when I did my last podcast, but if I did, sorry. But that podcast I listened to was beautiful. It was so wise. And hearing people like Rick Rubin and Andre 3000 discussing things is amazing. I would love in my future with music to at some point meet Rick Rubin and have him be like a mentor to me for things. And to meet an icon like Andre 3000 would be amazing, to try and pick someone like his brain, or just to meet him as a person in general. I don't know. But they were talking about, if this was them, how a lot of people at their concerts, they weren't focused on the concert. They're taking pictures, they're taking videos, and they're posting them, and they're getting more excitement through the picture, or like they think the pictures matter more, but it's not the experience of that concert. People are getting more excited about trying to portray their life in such a glamorous way for social media and the internet that they're not even living their life that well. They're just preparing it for a life that's not even real, which, it's fine to take cool pictures. It's fine to try and have cool things, but obsessing over to that point to where it takes over your day-to-day is such a problematic thing. And people will get sucked into this by seeing what other people post. We'll see what other people create. We'll see how they think, or not how they think, but how they look, and that false idea of how they look and how they want you to be, how they want them to be seen by you. It's how they portray their picture. And it's cool. Like I said, you can make a picture cool by editing it, by filtering it, by just taking it from a cool angle and whatnot. And that may not describe the story of what actually happened in that, but it can be a cool memory, and it can be something cool to share with people, no problem. But it's when we get sucked into these ideas of these false worlds of people are, like I said, just people are more obsessed with the internet as a world that doesn't even exist. You are more focused on the simulation than the simulation we live in already, if you want to call it that. The world that we live in already, the life that we live. You're too busy playing Sims, and you're not worried about your actual life and family or health or whatever it may be, or career or passions. I find a lot of people who get sucked into other things rather than finding a dream and a passion. And don't get me wrong though, like when I was younger and I made YouTube videos, I totally wanted to be like a streamer, or not a streamer, but like I wanted to make YouTube videos. I wanted to edit and create. And I think that stuff's cool. I'm not saying those people should just quit their life or whatever, go do something real, quote unquote. But I think people who like are just doing it for like a leisure gone bad, or something that's just consumed them, and it's not your career at that point. I hate finding people who just spend their day doing, I say nothing, but nothing productive or nothing towards anything specific. It's all just stuff to get them like to pass through the day, whether it's playing games and other junk. And like I said, there's nothing wrong with that, but it's not letting that control you and not letting that influence too much. And like I've said before, balance and having that balance helps a lot with life. So yeah, I think it's fair to consider those kind of things. And that's where like I said, I definitely have deleted Instagram because I was getting too sucked into posts, and then I was trying to just keep my head better too, because I'd be doing good and I'd see something that was controversial. I'd see a post and I'd read the comments, and then I'd see something pretty ignorant, and people would be trying to talk. This is why, and I'm a kid, so take this lightly, because I don't mean to sound too ignorant or too, oh, he's a kid or whatever, but it probably paints that picture pretty well. It's growing up, I did not care for politics at all, and now I'm at a point to where I'm getting older and I see where things impact me, and trying to figure out, I want to be more conscious and informed on situations and political controversies or just events in general, so I can form my own opinion. But politics frustrate me so much, and that's why I think I don't like diving into it, because it's such a grimy thing. It's so gross to me. I hate it. I hate the idea of I don't like how it affects people and how it divides people a lot of times. And this I hate people who just automatically take it as a one-sided thing, or they portray it on the other side, or just shift blame and play a blame game rather than acknowledging things that it's not black or white. It's not that one side's completely good and one side's completely bad. And I think people let pride get in the way of that sometimes. I think people let their blindness and like what they've just been fed from their environment distract them from like truly having their own beliefs and discovering where you really stand in line on things. And that's for anything, for that matter. So it's not just a political thing, but me struggling with love as it is, I don't think politics is something I should dive too deep down for like in the sense of just like being submerged in that. So and the internet can be a crazy place. You can find people who just do not care at all, and people who like to troll a lot. So learning what's worth your time also is good. But I'd see a lot of ignorant comments or things that would just like rub me the wrong way, and I'd get triggered by it, and I'm like, So I'm like, I'm not you're not gonna. I think majority of the time too, like the few comments I do read where someone says something crazy or whatever that provokes an argument, and someone responds civilly, and then the other person responds civilly, and they come to a conclusion and have mutual respect at the end of it. I think that stuff is such a like outlier, but it's such a wild thing for me to see, because I'm like, that's like to me that's like gorillas in a zoo playing chess together. Like, you're not just being a brute or being ridiculous or irrational. Like you're what is going on right now? This seems so like unlike the atmosphere of the internet. But majority of the time though, I don't think you're gonna accomplish something like that. I think majority of the time you're gonna have people just being stubborn, and you're not gonna have people who want to have a civil discussion, and that comes from people who just like to troll, and that comes from people wanting to be stubborn. And in general, I think too, psychologically, you don't have that same thought and effect of a conversation with someone you're not with and can't see or can't physically be around. Even if you know what they are, can see them, like if you're Skyping or whatever, it's so different, even in our brains and how we perceive it, because it's not here, it's not with us, it's all digital, and it's better than sending a letter, I guess. In that sense, it's made communication easier. But like I said, all this comes with pros and cons. I think a lot of the internet too, in that Bo Burnham Inside special that he just did, talking about like his song Welcome to the Internet, and talking about how it's such a beautiful song describing how the internet's, you can find cute things and you can find really morbid things and you can find crazy stuff on the internet. And he has it where it slows down for a minute, and he said this is circa 92. You guys, the internet was travel blogs, an occasional or a travel blog, something else, a chat room or two, or catalogs, there we go, and then a chat room or two. So the internet was a much more informational and kind of pure place, because when things are first created, they have that innocence to them. They're a child, and they're how long they've been around. And same with things like YouTube, I think you see, where when YouTube first came out, yeah, there was weird stuff on here, but it was just people excited to create and post freely. And then now, as times progress, we see people posting we had an offensive period where people would post a lot of edgy stuff and dark humor stuff. And then we are at a time now where a lot of that's being more regulated and watched over and restricted because the platform's aged and things change. So it's an interesting thing to watch all of those kind of, I guess, platforms and whatnot be born and unravel and how they do impact us. But it's hard to always notice in that moment too. But yeah, when I don't know if I finished this point either. I'm so sorry if I'm all over the place. I'm done apologizing though. That's the final one. That's it. All right. So when I did renew my gym membership a couple weeks ago and I started going more routinely, I think this is where I left off. I'm trying to make sure, one, I lost a lot of weight over the summer too. I lost like 12, 15 pounds and unintentionally. So I was down at like 144 and 143 was my lightest. And now I'm walking around 49, 50. So that's pretty great. I'm very happy with that, to slowly be putting on weight again and to seeing my, what muscle I had slowly come back and just getting back in shape and being healthy. I've been trying to be better with my diet, significantly. And that's just a lot. All of this has made me feel better. And that's that, like I said, it's that long-term gratification of the enjoying the process and not getting so sucked into instant gratification things of whatever they may be, or those dopamine instant gratifications. The workouts I started doing, I left the gym after I did an intense workout for the first time in a while, and I felt so rewarded. I felt like I had a release of dopamine in my brain that was like, this is healthy. This is, a great way to enjoy this kind of thing and have that release in ourselves. So that's something that's been beautiful too, to start appreciating more again. But yeah, I think, and like I said, this doesn't mean when I recommend or when I say that like people should detox in a lot of things, whether it's fast food, whether it's smoking, drinking, any of these just kind of instant gratifications or dopamine releases, of dopamine releases in general. I think it's fair to go back and take some time away from those, because one, you recognize when you take enough time away from something, you're not submerged in it. Like that whole thing of you can't put a fire out from inside the house. When you take time away from it, you recognize where that fire is or where those problems are. Or maybe when you return to it, you just have that clearer vision of, okay, this is something I still enjoy, but I don't need to be doing it like this. I don't need to be doing it to this extreme or this much. And I can be more moderate and balanced in my approach to this stuff, which is a phenomenal thing to achieve too. But yeah, just taking time away from things at times and just making sure we don't get sucked into stuff. Because I think, for me at least, getting sucked into too much instant gratification things and just dopamine, it just inhibited me over time. After a certain amount of time, it wasn't new, and I became accustomed, and I wasn't able to, have that same experience, and it started flowing over and trickling down into other aspects and avenues of my life. So it's been a process, but I'm glad that I've been aware of something like that to help me get out of it and to help me grow as a person. And with that, though, I have that perspective now. And so it's not just I was in a crummy situation. It's like, but I learned, And that's the whole thing I always like to say is just, you always want to try and learn something from everything. Learning's a great thing, and it's really fun to do. Especially when it's about something you like. And for me, I value my life. I value my spirituality pretty hard. I value trying to be a good person and chasing passions. And I'm passionate about the things already listed. So those things for me, it's just what I like to do, and I try to grow as a person because you can't repeat the same thing over and over again and expect different results. You have to change your method of approach sometimes, and that comes through learning and experimenting and getting feedback and being more aware and conscious and trying to understand. But yeah, I don't know about y'all either, but I just if I hate that I still have Snapchat on my phone, and I love to get rid of it for like with Instagram as well, because those are the two things I use the most. I don't really get on TikTok too much because I know like I said, I'm not trying to just have my attention span ruined from a lot of like just. That's why I looking back on Vine, I talked a lot of trash on Vine because I didn't use it too much when it was relevant. Like I did a little bit, but in hindsight, it's like, oh, this just capitalizes off people's short attention spans. And is it true humor? Like there's a lot of Viners, when Vine shut down, didn't acclimate to YouTube too well, because they had to make longer videos. 6-second videos don't necessarily function too well there, and so you realize, I have to put a lot more thought in it. It's a lot harder to make something that's more entertaining and substantial in a longer period of time. Excuse me. But you see people who did acclimate and adjust and whatnot, but even then, like people like David Dobrik, who's probably I don't know if the pinnacle is the right word, but like the one of the biggest stars of that, probably beside like the Paul brothers. He does a lot of vlogs, and his stuff's still very fast paced. It's like funny moments and little like sketches or like punchlines or one liners in his vlogs, and they're all like 4 minutes. So then that's not talking trash on it. Like he did acclimate and he had a great formula for what he does, but even then, like it's still those shorter things. Like that's why I like making funny moment videos in middle school, is because like making a longer video, like I wouldn't say I hated, but I envied streaming because I have a short attention span. So whenever I would try and I couldn't watch streamers. I can't watch that stuff. That stuff is very hard for me to watch because I don't know how, I watch highlights because I don't know if I could just sit there the whole time and be observant for something like that. And especially if people like streamers who are entertaining, like I like your Jay Schlats and people like that. And I guess my childhood YouTuber I'd watch all the time, KY Speedy, and then he streams a lot now. But I cannot stop yawning and burping. I am so sorry. Though I know I redact that I'm not sorry, but I don't mean to. You know my intentions are pure. Any hoosies. But I couldn't watch people that like watching people who just gamed intensely. Like I guess not. Ninja's kind of an entertainer now too, but people who just play competitive and stuff like that. I could not watch that because I think I'd have to. I'm just focused on the gameplay at that point. But I like entertainment. And that just doesn't appeal to me. So when I'd make videos, I'd just make little short funny moment clips, and I'd take 2 to 4 hours of gameplay that I had recorded on my capture card, and I'd edit it down to about anywhere from 5 to maybe 6-7 minutes. I don't think I ever did anything that's 8 minutes, because it's a matter of just getting enough content or knowing how to create content that's that good. I have little bursts of things, and also just experimenting long enough to be able to find your grooves and find your style too. But it's something I'm really interested to see if I come back to though, and the whole little intro I did at the beginning of this podcast, like I said, this was I think that's a step in that direction because that stuff's just fun for me. Ultimately, I like to try and make stuff meaningful and entertaining, but also it is just a passion of mine. So getting to do something like that would be pretty cool in the future, to have that resume and pick up more. And I've been writing a lot more. I've been writing songs here and there and slowly practicing my piano. I'm trying to do a lot, so it's trying to take it one step at a time and try and focus on one thing and get good at it and have that trickle down. But we're working on it. It's not going to be instant gratification, but hopefully throughout these next podcasts, if the next one's a month from now again, then who knows? Maybe I'll be really great and I'll have killed it and I'll be a pro at everything now. Probably not, but I'll probably be significantly better and more fine-tuned. And that's all I can ask for. Yeah, I don't know how all over the place this podcast was, but I'm just going to upload this and see how it goes. I'm already so far deep in this, so if you get this far, thanks for listening. The biggest issue for this is coming up with podcast ideas, because I think I do, when I do have a good idea, the podcast is pretty well made, I'd say. But finding the ideas is a hard part for me. I'm a very passionate person and genuine, I'd like to claim. And I have a hard time figuring out ideas, and I don't like forcing something, and I want it to be good quality. Like, I think this topic is something that I've really enjoyed. Or not that I enjoyed, but something that's passionate and serious to me with the whole detoxing, and it's something personal. So I can talk on it and speak on it better. But I'm a child, and I don't always know everything. So, if any of you know me personally, and you'd like to reach out and give me an idea that you think I do great at, feel free to. I welcome you. But maybe I might try and make something to where people can submit ideas also for future podcasts. But if you find a way to get in contact with me, send me your idea and I'll do it. Also, for those of you who have been wondering where my guests are, I don't know when the next time I'll do a podcast with somebody will be either, but I will probably pick that up again. It's just a matter of trying to figure out who, and like I said, finding a good topic, because I have a lot of people I'd like to talk to, but it's just picking up that conversation and starting that and finding something that we're mutually both able to speak about. I don't do research on people like Joe Rogan does, and usually most of these people are just close people to me. But thank you for supporting this podcast and watching me as a little boy learns to hold a conversation with other people effectively, entertainingly, and even with himself, and just have a good little monologue on his laptop while his brain seems to go all over the place. So thank you for this, and I will see you guys when I see you. Hopefully next time when I see y'all are doing better too. So hopefully this provided you with some tools or maybe some pointers, or opened your eye to something that you weren't quite aware of, and you can do what you need to do to work towards that goal, and we can grow as a team. And maybe if we ever see each other in person, I don't know, probably not, but if we were to, I'll give you a fist bump on the house. So thank you guys for coming out and listening to this episode of the Cranium Cast podcast, and I will see you guys next time. Bye-bye.